Now, on our last presentation on the block, we got John Maitland. And John started the practice energy architecture in 1990. So I think he's been doing sustainable design before it was even cool. And he established that firm after practicing for 13 years under his own name. And energy architecture brand reflected his environmental and social values, which already informed his architecture. And currently, energy architecture continues to be driven by those same values today. So I hope through this presentation of their architecture, you can showcase some very good ideas and some of the values that are incorporated into their firm.
Well, while we're waiting, a bit of a shock for me, the clients are actually here. So about 60% of my speech has been cancelled. So I'll just have to stick to the facts as I know them, and that represents probably 30% of the facts that they know. So I'll say right from the outset that this is a place you must go and see and have the tour and listen to them so that you can understand everything that they've done. Very well informed clients, and that's why they chose me. A difficult site. When I inherited, it was vacant. It's a bit over 12 metres wide. It's in the suburbs, and it's on a 45-degree angle to the preferred axis. So we don't have a north orientation as such. And clearly, that's the site. So this is what I was met with. A corner site, very tight in terms of setbacks required by council, private open space not being allowed to be in the areas where it's exposed to the public, how to develop a house on this sort of axis without being able to use those areas that are already exposed for solar orientation. And this particular view looking southwest, I thought I'd include it because I remember being concerned about that guy and what he might be doing with his truck. But nevertheless, what it does is gives you an indication of the depth of the site. 30 metres deep, so there is quite some depth, but only 12 metres wide, which made for some problems in terms of how we would achieve our passive solar design. So looking around the other way, this is the sketch design that we came up with. It's a very collaborative process with the client. We work together very closely on all of this. And in fact, they went on to be owner-builders, or at least I should say, Catherine went on to be owner-builder, supported by John. So the issue in here is that north is kind of diagonally up this way. Hence this bite taken out of the building for private open space and the orientation of this basically glazed wall facing north. Obviously for the passive solar reasons that we've all been learning about tonight if we didn't already know them. Effectively then that meant there wasn't much left in terms of site for landscape, given the sort of services that are required and so on. So we ended up with a street front and a street side, and that's literally the amount of landscape we had available to us plus whatever was between the boundary with the neighbour and this area through here. Of course, this area needed to be largely paved, if not completely paved, so it could be lived in. So the design matured into a set of documents which we were able to present to council, enabling a planning permission to proceed, given that we'd satisfied all of the requirements, including a minimal setback from the street at this point, which was less than they would have preferred, given that the property next door is set back quite some further distance. Very little setback from the side street, usually needing to be more like 2.5 metres, but we were able to achieve, with a degree of articulation across that elevation, we were able to achieve the width of the design that was necessary for the house to be developed. And the roof, a very simple roof. We didn't have clerestory lighting possibilities, and we chose just to do a straightforward gable roof with the bite taken out of that roof in this area in order to get this northern sun deep into the living part of the house. The only two-storey section was for the additional bedroom or suite, which sits over the top of the garage with a lowered ceiling, so it wasn't sort of elevated and popping out through the rest of the development. And so here we are, the top elevation, clearly the northwest. So we're looking at this is our literally our northern-facing elevation. This is our northern-facing glazed elevation, and that was it in the whole house, effectively. However, as you will see when you get there, it's very effective. Construction, won't go into any significant details, but lots of thermal mass, exposed concrete, in-floor heating and cooling through heat pump systems, using a huge amount of the capacity of the photovoltaics. And the house has been and is continuing to be monitored, so there's a huge amount of information that you can get from that. Reverse brick veneer, so there's quite a lot of thermal mass in the vertical parts of the house as well as in the floor. And this is how it looks. It's quite understated. It sits nicely in the Gilberton context. It doesn't look like it's declaring its credentials. It just sits quietly and softly, and I think beautifully built. I have to congratulate the builder in this instance. And the inside of that particular wall is really the feature. So here is this northern elevation. The shading is completely absent. So in summer it's stinking hot, except of course that they clip on the shading devices across all of this glazing through here. There is a sun shelter in the middle, which they use for their own entertaining. We had proposed a flexible blind arrangement, but the flexibility that they've chosen to use is to clip the blinds on the glass, which achieves the same shading as was required. Clearly ceiling fans, there's exhaust, vertical stack ventilation, cross ventilation, obviously insulation as would be required. This is a shot as one moves around the main living area to the bedrooms at the front of the house. So that curved section in the middle of the house, the bite we've taken out of it, actually lends a lot to how the house feels as well as how it operates. And there it is from the outside. And this shot is just to let you know that there's a lot going on in this house, and if you want to find out about it, you have to go there.